Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the Dateable AF podcast because women dating women is wild, wonderful, and occasionally a disaster. I am your host, Dr. Sarah Kyle, a therapist in private practice.
And I'm a co-host, Rachel Howell, a researcher extraordinaire and a single lesbian dater.
Welcome, everyone, to the Dateable AF podcast. She was perfect, but I was bored. A love letter to chemistry and why it matters more than your therapist wants it to. It's one of those situations where she has it all except the spark.
I love this topic so much.
I know you do. I know you do.
We got to be very careful.
Yes, we will never mention anyone by name on this podcast except for Monique and Veronica.
Yeah, so confession time. Have you dated someone who was perfect on paper and you just couldn't muster it up for them?
Ooh, I have, girl. I have. I think you know this person that I dated that I couldn't muster it up for. Her name was Monique.
Monique.
Yes, I met this person and she was beautiful. She was kind. She was successful. She was hardworking. She was literally perfect on paper. There was no reason why things should not have worked out with us. And I just didn't have the spark and I wanted it. Like I wanted to muster it up and I just did not have it. And so I kept trying and I couldn't make it work. So what about you? Have you had that experience?
Did you try that one twice? Just because you thought maybe...
Well, let me just tell you, let's say that I have it. It says, I'll take 2 more tickets to that. And sometimes, even though I know how the ride ends, I need to buy another ticket to it just to make sure. So I am famous for that. So I might or might not have bought another ticket to that ride. I might have bought a couple more tickets to that ride, as a matter of fact.
And I'm going to add to that I also think that maybe you got under somebody to get over somebody. I just want to put that out there too.
I will not be commenting on that at all. It was a long time ago, y'all. It was a long time ago.
Oh, I love having all this information on you. I love it.
I hate you sometimes.
It's a love-hate thing.
It is for sure. So what about you, Rachel? Have you ever had the experience of just somebody being perfect on paper, but not having the hots for them?
Absolutely. I have. And I've had that. I want to put this out there as sort of a disclaimer in that just because somebody wasn't perfect for me doesn't mean that they weren't perfect for someone else.
Of course.
But yes, I have absolutely. And in the same, and I think it's an interesting thing for us to talk about, is that it makes you really want to make something work that just isn't meant to work. But it seems like it should.
Yeah, it is a really interesting topic because I have friends that come from cultures where they have arranged marriages and their parents pick their partners.
Yeah.
And I don't know the statistics about this specifically. You're our researcher, so maybe you should look this up. But the success rate of those marriages is really high when your parents are picking the person because they're picking it based on practicality. And when we pick for ourselves, we're picking it based on spark. So I do recognize that there's something to that the spark can't be all you have. But for me, it seems like a necessary thing to have.
And that, I think if we took a poll of people that have been in long-term relationships, I would venture to guess that they would bounce all over that continuum of, because I've heard people say, I didn't have that beginning spark, but over time, I feel mad for them. And I really grew to love them deeply. And I also, like the two of us have talked, that some people just haven't ever had it without that spark in the beginning, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. So basically, I'm not here to take a stand about what works or what doesn't work, but I can say for me personally, that part is important, that I need to feel some initial level of spark or chemistry with someone. And in, my longer term successful relationships, I've had that spark at the very beginning. And that wasn't the only thing that we had, obviously, but it was an important piece of what drew me to them in the first place.
It's interesting when you think about it, from a therapist perspective. I'm sure that this conversation is interesting because on one hand, the spark can seem like something that would lead you down a path that's not necessarily healthy. And if you're, because that's powerful, typically that spark that you feel with somebody, that connection is pretty powerful. And
can lead you, keeps you coming back.
Exactly. But it's led us all down paths that were not necessarily productive, right?
That is true. That is very true. On the flip side of that, I think that somebody can be, and I'm going to use this word purposely, somebody can be a very nice person. And that is, I will tell you that as a therapist, it is one of those things that over 25 years as a therapist, if you come into my office and the first word you use to describe the person you're dating is nice, I'm going to tell you right now, that is not going to work. I'm already I will lay money on it right now. If that is your descriptor, nope, not happening.
I have been the beneficiary of that feedback.
I think you have. And
several occasions.
I will not ever say I told you so, but I'm just going to.
You will say it. You will say it. Yes, you will.
Oh, you're right.
Don't even act like it.
Rachel comes in. She's like, she was a very nice woman. I'm like, oh, no. Go ahead and break up with her right now. It's not going to work.
What word are you looking for?
Anything besides nice, honestly. Anything besides nice.
Sexy. She was beautiful.
She was hot. She was amazing. It was so much fun. Any of those words, I'm like, okay, there might be something here. But if you're like, she was a very nice person, you're like, nope. This is my very scientific research that I've been doing for the last 25 years.
You're representing your field well.
I represent field well. I feel that Harvard's going to be calling me anytime now to pursue this line of research. So if you, our listeners, have said that about someone and that was your very first descriptor and you're still with them, we need to hear from you, because I yes. being proven wrong, but I'm just going to say I don't think it's right.
So we have I'd lean towards being right, especially again, we'll bring up the term lesbian bed death, because if you go in with nice, I'm not really sure where you have to go.
No, you don't want to jump in bed with someone who's nice. You want to jump in bed with someone who's sexy. You want to jump in bed with someone who's hot. Yeah. So lesbian bed death, it's a thing. I've said it before. We're probably going to have a whole episode on it. But yeah, if someone's nice from the get-go, not going to be any sex happening in that relationship.
Maybe we'll do an episode on lesbian bed death. One of our after parties we could do.
I think we should. Because the truth is, you don't want to kiss someone because they're nice.
No.
It's not drawing you in. Okay. And I'm, again, feel free to argue with me, listeners. I'm open to it, but I got a long streak of research going on here. Yes.
Well, what about this idea of being perfect but boring? That's a different scenario than nice, I think. And I believe that, again, I want to say this very clearly to all of our listeners, that you could be boring to me, but you may not be boring to someone else. So because I'm going to frame this in some of my own personal experiences, that doesn't mean that you're a boring person.
Right.
Monique and Veronica, all of you Moniques and Veronicas out there, but it has been very true that I have had some amazing dates with and dated some women who were exceptional. I mean, just across the board. Great human being, sexy. I mean, not just nice, sexy, those things. And I was
They weren't for you.
I was
They weren't for you. Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example of this. Joe, my wife, wants to poke her eyes out when I am talking to my therapist friends because we're talking about therapy things and we're delving into people's personality traits. And that is so boring to her. But to me, I'm fascinated by it. And just to be fair, I don't talk about that all the time because then I would be a boring partner to her. But I try not to do that. But that's a good example of, to me, that is not a boring conversation. But if Joe went on a date with someone and all they wanted to talk about was therapy stuff, she would find that boring. So to your point, what's boring to one person is not boring to another.
right. And I think this is where I've been exploring this idea of, and I this is a great challenge for our listeners as well. If I ask you, what are the 3 things that you really need to get from your partner in order to be very stimulated in the relationship, and that you need them to come from your partner, even if you get them from friends, but you need your partner to have that element. And we're going to take sex right off the table. We'll just push sex off the table because most of us would prefer if we have a partner from our partner. I'm not going to.
Not that there's anything wrong with doing it another way, but
I'm not going to throw any shade out there. That's fine. But we're going to move that one aside and just talk a little bit about that. I think that right there is you knowing what it is that you want from that person. So you actually are actively trying to, when you're dating someone, to see if they have it. And that you go in leading in to that, trying to discover. So for me, just an example for me is that I need from my person intellectual banter. I just do. I get that from my friends. I have great friends who do satisfy that on a friend level in a big way. But I need it to be a part of my everyday life. If I'm going to be with someone, if I'm going to wake up with you and go to bed with you, and you're going to be in my life, then when I think about drinking a cup of coffee with you, I need to think that is a possibility of that's
some smart back and forth going between the two.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know that right up front. And so there are a lot of people who don't feel comfortable doing that, or that's like an occasional thing. Seems taxing. For me, it's energizing. It fills me up. For some people, they think, woof, that's just too serious.
Do you think that's an introversion, extroversion thing?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe
for an introvert to be so far out there, like bantering back and forth would be something that took energy away instead of giving someone energy. I just thought of that.
Yeah, it might be. And it's also not, I mean, I think one thing people think about is, oh my God, you're going to want to talk about politics, and I don't want to talk with somebody about politics. And I'm not talking about that. Yeah. I think about it on multiple levels. I think about it on the level of something that's really catching your attention, that sparks you in a deep way, and you just can't wait to talk to me about it. Yeah. And that you want to mess around and play with it, like, let's talk about it. I want to know what you think about it. And that's that sort of excitement, but it's something that pushes me to think about something new that I'm not necessarily bringing to the table. And it could be, if what you're into is spirituality, then bring it,
Yeah.
And let's chat it up about it. If it's, it could be a number of things that I'd be drawn into, but what
it's smart banter.
Yes.
Okay. I like that. Can you say more about what your other 2 are? Yeah,
for sure. Humor.
So important.
Yes.
Yeah. If you can't laugh with somebody, I don't know. That seems rough.
Yeah. I just think not only do I want to laugh with them, but I want us to be able to laugh at ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. Being able to laugh at yourself is so important. You can't just take life too seriously or take yourself too seriously. Okay. So
And
Smart.
my third one would be a sense of curiosity, that you're a curious person.
Yeah.
Probably a fourth one would be confidence, and that it's as important as everything else, that you're
Yes.
confident.
Yeah.
But
I mean
that's in
that.
the date. Yeah, in the dating thing, if I think we should all be asking ourselves what those things are, because if you're dating somebody and you're not really aware of what those things are, then you don't know how to explore that in the dating phase.
Yeah. And so we're talking today about chemistry. And do you think that whatever your top three are individually, do you think that that is a part of what contributes to you having chemistry with somebody?
Absolutely, I do. Yes.
I think so too. That you kind of know off the bat if that person's going to have the things that you want.
Yes. And I to your introvert extrovert comment, I do think that people who are introverted may be a little slower to show those. They may have them, but I think they may be a little slower to put those out versus an extrovert who just naturally it's how they lead, it's what they do.
Yeah.
And that kind of segues a little bit into how many dates should you have before you think about whether or not that zhuzh, that chemistry is in place or
Yeah.
there.
Okay. So as someone who's been in the dating bee for a bit, how many dates do you usually give somebody before you make a decision one way or another? I mean, sometimes you might know on the first date, like, oh, this person's it, or no, this person's not it. But if you're unsure, how long do you give it?
Yeah, I don't think there's a perfect formula to it, but I do think there's too much, going too long. I do think my personal experience has been that I've had everything from meeting someone and thinking they're really nice and and there's great friend potential. I just know that right up front.
Yeah.
To meeting someone thinking they're nice. I think there may be more in there and I'm not seeing it, but I'm sensing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sensing that there's something behind the curtain there and I'm curious about what it is. And
And you might give it a couple more dates after that.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I would say, and I'm just saying this off the cuff, I haven't really thought this through, but I would say give someone at least a second date, unless there's some huge red flag, like, they get, passed out drunk on the first date or something, then I wouldn't give them a second date. But aside from a giant red flag, I'd say, yeah, give someone a second chance because maybe they had a bad day. Maybe they were showing up nervous and maybe for whatever reason, you didn't get to see their best self on the first date. So if you're unsure, give it another date, but I probably wouldn't give it more than three. If you're not feeling the connection by the third date, I'd say you're kind of wasting both of your time if you keep going after that.
And I also think it doesn't mean that you don't have a different kind of relationship to move towards.
Yeah, for sure.
Not if you actually really liked the person and you saw a lot of things in them that you enjoyed, then that's where we've talked about in the past. Just say, hey, I'd love to be friends. And if they're into that thing too, then you can make that happen. But I just don't think it's an all or nothing. It doesn't have to be, I'm either in it or I'm out of it. Just open up your mind, explore what they are bringing to you, and then be open to it not necessarily having to be a romantic thing. And that's the only reason you're there and you're going to get nothing else from it.
Yeah, I love that idea because maybe they're not your person, but maybe they have a friend that is your person. So you never know what kind of horizons that goes back to something that you talked about a few episodes ago, which is just say yes to things. Say yes to being friends with someone if they're a nice person. I wanted to go back to two things that we were just talking about. One, I wanted to clarify introversion versus extroversion. We think of that as being about someone's social skills. That if someone has good social skills, they make good eye contact, they can have a conversation, we assume that person is an extrovert. But introversion, extroversion actually has to do with how you get your energy. So if I said to you, hey, guess what? You're going to have a whole weekend all to yourself and you're not going to see or talk to one other human. Does that idea make you feel energized or does that idea make you feel trepidatious or tired? And if I said to you, hey, you're going to go to a social event and you're going to meet 100 cool new people, do you get excited by that idea or does that feel dreadful? So thinking about deciding if you're an introvert or an extrovert, you want to think about where you get fueled. So do you get fueled by being around people or do you get exhausted by being around people? So just wanted to kind of clarify that it's not always what we think it is.
It's not. And also some people are in the middle. There are some folks who sort of ride that line. And I know a few of those. And so they're not all of one or all of the other.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I will say, like, for me, I am an extrovert. I love being around people and I get energized from being around people. But as I've gotten older, I definitely want to have time to myself as well. So I don't know if that's something that typically changes over time for people, but I like to have both. So
do you think this idea of, say, the spark or the that instant kind of chemistry, do you have any sense of whether extroverts are typically drawn to extroverts or extroverts, introverts together? I mean, I've never done any research on that, but I have been with both. And what I will say to that, just from my own personal research within my little
very small sample size.
Yes. That I am good with both. What I wrestle with is shyness. I've noticed that that's probably more of a thing that is harder for me, because behind shy for me has been, I feel like I'm always carrying the load.
Yeah.
So I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
I totally agree, because if you're with a shy person, then if you go to a social event, you feel worried about them and you kind of have to make sure they're okay, versus if you're with someone who you feel like is an extrovert or has good social skills, then you can split up and everything's fine. So I agree that shy is harder if you're an extrovert, or I will speak for myself. Shy would be harder for me because I don't want to have to feel like I'm caretaking someone in a social situation. But if you have two shy people, maybe that'd be good.
Well, I think it is. I mean, have you been with an introvert?
You know, Jo identifies as an introvert. She has good social skills, but she can't really do days and days of being around people. She had a situation last week where she had to be around people kind of all day, every day for 3 or 4 days, and she was worn out by it. So, but she has great social skills. If we go to a function, we typically split off and do our own thing and then have a lot to talk about at the end of the night. Get in the car and breathe immediately.
She runs for the person who has a dog.
Oh, that's true. She loves all social situations that involve dogs.
Yes.
That is true. So you've been with both. You've been with extroverts and introverts. I can think of at least a couple of each.
Yes.
So you don't have an idea of which one you lean toward?
I think someone who leans a little more towards extroversion is probably a more natural fit with me, but I've done well with both. Like I said, the main difference is if you're shy, then and shy is different than being introverted. And
yes.
So that it's not the introversion that especially at this stage in my life, it's easy for me to allow people to, I just really want them to have their alone time because I like to have mine.
Yeah.
And to allow someone to go and do or just be by themselves. It is difficult. I don't really demand a lot around, I'm very social, and I also don't need somebody that is as social as I am and that wants to participate in all those things. And I'm perfectly happy going to a lot of those things by myself. But there's a balance question here. As you're thinking about how you might fit with someone, you have to have some commonalities or you're doing everything separate.
Yeah.
So there has to be, when I'm looking at it, I think about where I see myself with that person. Like, what do I see myself doing with that person?
Yeah.
And what are the crossovers?
I think that's really important. And I think there's a middle ground, as we talk about with so many things, that there's one extreme of being joined at the hip, which to me is a level of confidence or security. If you feel like you need to be with your person at all times, then you might be lacking some kind of confidence. And the other extreme is that your lives are totally separate and you don't do anything together. So I think there's some middle ground in there where you have your own activities that you do alone, and then you have things that you enjoy with your partner.
Reminder that we're always talking about these things in the context of dating. This is not something that you should be discovering after you've decided to take your U-Haul and move in. These are actually things that are meant to be explored in dating. So as you are dating, noticing those places where you come together and thinking about whether or not that's sustainable, and like a place where you see opportunity in the future,
Yes.
and that you're not just waiting, and you think those are the things that you learn once you're with somebody in 2 or 3 years. I think that's where you get in trouble, honestly, is that you find out, oh, shit.
Yeah, you're not paying attention up front. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, wait, this wasn't what I wanted.
Right.
Yep. It's a great thing to notice. And I think if, what we're sort of looking at today is the balance between feeling safe in a relationship and feeling a spark with someone. And I think what I see a lot in my practice is when someone's been burned by high chemistry, then they tend to go to the opposite extreme and pick someone that they don't have chemistry with. So I think you got to figure out for yourself, are you looking for safety? Are you looking for a spark? Or are you open to the fact that there can be both things?
I think that's also playing out more. I notice it more as I'm an older dater, that I think because we've had so many life experiences, we're more cautious. Yeah. And for sure, I can tell you that there are a handful of dates that I've been on where I would have handled that first date completely different than I have.
So you're learning as you go, is what you're saying?
I am learning as I go that I might, pace myself a
little bit differently.
Okay. Yes. And then there's sometimes I walk away going, crap, because I think about it too much. In the past, I would have gone, oh, I just hit that.
I'm not looking for long term. I'm just now. This is great. Yeah.
And now I find myself going, like, to hit that, but no, don't do that. Don't hit it. The price you'll pay.
Crazy eyes going on right there.
Too big a price tag for that.
That's right. Yeah. So there is a dating coach that's super well known now. Her name is Logan Ury, and she's written a book, maybe more than one book, but I know at least one book, and has some dating shows, and she's great. She always has great advice, but she has the title of a chapter in her book was F the Spark. And basically the idea that the spark isn't the thing. And while I agree that the spark isn't the thing that's going to carry you long term, you can have really good sparks with someone and they can just be a disaster of a person. I do think it's important to look at, do you feel some kind of initial attraction toward that person?
So on a first date, should you have like one sexy thought about them?
I think you should have at least one sexy thought, at least one feeling that you might want to kiss this person at the end of the night. Whether you kiss them or not, you should want to kiss them, I think. So Logan Ury says that only 11% of people experience love at first sight, which is kind of the same thing as the spark. I guess I don't know that I would call it love, but just some kind of, stirring. What are your thoughts about the whole love at first sight thing?
Well, having had that experience
on which way, of wanting to kiss someone or not wanting to kiss someone?
The wanting to kiss someone, and then the incredible spark. That has happened to me, and it is remarkably different than anything that has happened to me in a very long time. And whether or not there was whether it was sustainable or whatever, we didn't have the pleasure or the the opportunity to figure that out. But all of the things we've been talking about, they were there in spades. And I mean, from the very get-go. And
the moment you met her.
The moment I met her, I felt like the energy was going to break all the glass in the house. And it was terrifying. The amount
what was scary about it? Yeah.
I wasn't sure I was going to be able to behave. It was terrifying.
Okay.
The degree of energy. And it really has made me question a lot about, I mean, how amazing that is, how amazing that feels, and the fact that, is there really something great enough to buy into if it doesn't have it? And that's really begs this question that we're putting forward is, do I have to wait till the next thing like that comes along in order for me to really want? I don't know that will happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think that's such a good question. Do you think that spark is about lust? Is it a sexualized thing or is it something else?
It was chemistry. It was just chemistry on multiple levels. When I think about the person just from a physical standpoint, I mean, they did not match up, but I don't have a type. So that's...
Girl, you've been all across the board with your types.
I have been. I like to keep it, I don't like to be pigeonholed. I don't want to be slotted. But there were a million things about her that caught my attention. And they were like the top ones, style. So she had a unique, really, she immediately stood out as far as what she was wearing. So, and that catches my attention. I love great style. Immediate conversation, smart at another level that just came across. It caught my attention immediately. A complete music nut definitely caught my attention.
Yep.
So those are big things that
aren't necessarily about lust. That's just it's about attraction, but not necessarily just sexual, physical attraction. There's something deeper there, it sounds like.
Well, and confidence. So to our point, we were laughing before we got on air about whether or not Sarah's wife, Joe's telling me I need to be softer. And I was trying to figure out do I lower my voice or do I? Yes,
And I'll go ahead and put out there what I said to you is that you do not need to be softer. You need to find someone who is okay with you being exactly as soft or not soft as you are right now.
And that she came at me with a tremendous amount of confidence without reservation.
The woman with the spark that we were talking about previously.
Yes.
Monique.
Yes. Monique. Yeah. Not your wife, Joe. That's not who we're talking about.
Just to clarify.
Sure.
Is there something I should know?
My punctuation didn't really get into that. A segue. But
you gotta watch the segues. People will be talking about us.
Yes. And that was also a big draw, was just she was really confident and just owned it. And yes, I liked it very much.
Yep. Okay, so let me ask this from a different angle. Do you believe that chemistry can build over time, like a slow burn, or do you think it's either there or not?
I can say that I don't think my experience has been that chemistry builds over time.
Same. I have not had the experience of not feeling a spark with someone and then I'm with them and it builds over time. What I will say, I've had the experience in several different relationships of having that really intense spark at the beginning and having that develop into something that was much deeper and longer lasting. But I have not had that absent the spark.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. And I haven't had that experience, but I think, again, I think there are a ton of people that have.
Yeah. And I would love to hear from those people because it's not that I don't believe it exists. I just have not had that experience. So if you're listening and you've had the experience where you started dating someone, you didn't have the spark, and then it built into something, something that lasted, or you all of a sudden got the hots for them, but you didn't have it at the beginning. I would love to hear more about that experience.
We would. And yeah, I think this is a fun topic to chat with our listeners about. I will say, in thinking about this a little more, is there is someone who is in my life who wasn't instant that I was thinking those, like I didn't have sexy thoughts right off the bat,
Yeah.
but there was something that caught my attention in a nice, deep, edgy way about them that eventually developed into it was a spark. I mean, there was an intellectual spark that became kind of a flame.
Okay. Well, that's something. There was something that caught your attention or some kind of edge at the very beginning, even if it wasn't that you wanted to rip her clothes off.
Right.
Okay. All right. I won't ask you to elaborate on that right now, but maybe we could talk about it in a future episode.
No, I think that's about all we're going to say about it.
You never know. Time will tell. Time will tell.
By the way, also, before I forget, I'm going to do a shout out about the fact that Dateable AF has a water volleyball team.
Yes, we do.
That by the time you guys hear this episode, we will already have the hardware at our house, a trophy. But we have a very athletic team that I'm sure will compete at the highest level.
The highest level. And I recruited.
Yes, you did. And we understand there's no NIL money right now, but that the portal might be open later.
It could still happen.
And
we have discussed on this show before my amazing athletic prowess. And since I feel like I'm one of the, I am the ringer for our team. So
not that her wife Jo played college volleyball, but she's
well, I got other skills.
Jo and I talked about it, and we just want to say to you, Sarah, there's no crying in volleyball. If they hit it at your face, you cannot cry.
If somebody hits it at my face, I'm going to give them a talking to, and then I'm going to start crying. Well, can I just add that I did deadlift 230 pounds this week? So
I know.
There. Can anyone else on our volleyball team do that? I don't think so.
No, I can assure you, you've seen me in CrossFit, and they laugh at me. I'm just saying, I show up because I am committed to my pod partner over here.
I love that.
And I go in there, and I've got these little bitty twixy legs that, they don't even have a bar in there that without any weights on it that I can pick up.
Rachel's legs are the same size as my biceps. Wow.
Hey.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. They're very shapely legs.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's be sure the audience. Oh, God.
So yes, we are a competitive volleyball team now. So if you want to sponsor us, just let us know. Send in your money. I don't know what you'll get for that sponsorship, but we'll give you something. Send a check.
That's right. By the time you listen to this episode, you'll probably read about us, actually.
We'll have a win under our belt, for sure. For sure. Well, let's go over what we want folks to take away from this episode. I think the main thing for me is that I think you should pay attention to the chemistry. Notice if it's there, but you have to know that isn't the main component of a long-term successful relationship, but I do think it's important at the beginning.
And I think there is this idea of nice. We don't want you to think that that's a bad term, but we do really want you to consider whether or not nice is going to take you through the long haul in a relationship that needs to have some excitement in it and some adventure and those other things. And I don't know that nice is necessarily going to get you there if that's what you're feeling right in the beginning.
If nice is the word you're leading with, I'm going to say it's probably not going anywhere. But again, I'm open to being proven wrong about that. But on the flip side of that, you shouldn't be chasing chaos. If something feels chaotic, if your nervous system feels off when you're with this person, that is absolutely not what you're looking for. So just finding the balance between maybe not 100% Nice being the descriptor, but also not chaotic.
Yeah, and we didn't touch too deeply on that, but I think it's very important to pay attention if someone has a lot of drama, and that can be just, some people are drawn to it, and some people think that's the edge. And you need to really tease that out from somebody being curious and adventurous and funny versus doing this high drama, doing all sorts of weird stuff that seems edgy and may sound fun, but that is a path to nowhere.
Run away. Run away from the drama. Yep. And then asking yourself, are you actually bored with this person? Because if you're bored with them, that's not going anywhere. Or if it's just maybe you don't have that instant zingy chemistry, but you do want to give it a little bit more time.
And I think the best way to figure out if you're bored is to understand what you need. It's not on the other person. It's understanding whether or not someone is coming to you in a way that meets some of those major things that you feel like are important for you to have. And then if not, they need to go find the other person that doesn't think they're boring.
Yeah, that is right for them. Yes. And give it a little chance. But I would say if you're not feeling it after the third date, it's okay to call it.
I agree with that, Dr. Kyle.
All right. If you are listening and you've had this experience of the chemistry building over time, or if you've had the experience of ending things with someone who looked perfect on paper, we would really love to hear from you. So tell us about it in the comments here, wherever you're listening to this podcast, or you can DM us now at Dateable AF.
And next week's topic is, okay, but why are you still texting her?
Yes. Those relationships that just linger, even though you know they're not going somewhere. That is a wrap for today. If this episode made you laugh, or if it made you cringe, or if you agreed with us or disagreed with us, please send it to one friend who needs to hear it. When you share our podcast, it really helps us grow. And honestly, we need all of you to listen and share. Yes, so remember, we're going to be discussing your questions and comments in our after party episode. So please tune in for that. Thank you for listening to the Dateable AF podcast, where we help you find your happy ending.
Remember, be bold, be kind, and for the love of queer dating, don't text your ex, and stay dateable
AF.